Let's go ahead and kick things off with Oregon heading out to the West Coast out of the Big Ten. Still weird for me to say Oregon is in the Big Ten, but this is the day and age that we're in, ladies and gentlemen. So Oregon last year obviously had a pretty solid debut into their new conference as they went a perfect 12-0 in the regular season. They ran the gauntlet early on in the season, though. It was looking a little bit shaky. They struggled against the Idaho Vandals right out of the gate, and then they almost lost to Boise State at home. Credit to Boise State. They're a solid team, obviously, a college football playoff caliber team. And with Ashton Genty running all over the Ducks, that was a close game. Oregon almost lost that one, but they ended up using that as a rallying cry, and they just smoked the rest of their competition. They did have some close ones, like at Wisconsin was a close one, but they found a way to win, even in the ugly games. So fast forward to the Big Ten championship game, they took on Penn State, and they won. They beat Penn State, I think it was 45-38. But ultimately, Oregon did have it seemingly a 14-point cushion for a lot of that game, and Penn State was always trying to claw their way back in, and Oregon hung on and got the number 1 overall seed and a first-round bye in the college football playoff. But again, what was their reward for having the perfect season, going 13-0 and being the best-ranked team in the country? Well, they got to play Ohio State, who was on a revenge tour and a villain arc, you could say, after they lost to Oregon in the regular season and then got beat by their arch rival again, the Michigan Wolverines, at home in a really ugly game. Ohio State, they went full beast mode. So what did Oregon get for their perfect season? Going perfect 13-0, beating Ohio State at home, beating Michigan on the road, beating a tough Illinois Fighting Illini team at home 38-9. What did they get for that perfect season? They got to play the Ohio State Buckeyes, who were on their villain arc after losing to Oregon in the regular season and then losing to Michigan at home. That just triggered something for the Ohio State Buckeyes. But you know how Dan Lanning is. He says, hey, we'll play them anytime, anywhere. So how did that game go? Yeah, that did not pan out very well for the Ducks there. They just came out and laid an egg. There's no other way to put it. And Dan Lanning said as much in the post-game press conference where he said, we just did not come out and play our best. And to be clear, he gave credit to Ohio State. A lot of people came out and attacked him because somebody edited a clip to where he didn't, mention any credit to Ohio State, and he just put all the blame on, well, Oregon, we didn't come out and play our best football. People immediately pounced on him. No, he gave credit to Ohio State. He took it on the chin. The Ducks took it on the chin, and that was the end of their season. Brutal stuff. I had Oregon going to the college football playoff championship in my bracket, but it just was not meant to be. And, I thought it would at least be a close game, but Ohio State, they came out and laid the wood to them. So let's shift gears to now this season. And I mean, Oregon has lost a lot of talent. There's no way to sugarcoat this, folks. They lost Dylan Gabriel, the Heisman Trophy finalist and the quarterback who led Oregon on this miraculous, perfect 13-0 start. He's gone. You lose Jordan James, the starting running back and the leading rusher of the team. You lose Tez Johnson, the wide receiving room's leading receiver in yards and touchdowns. You lose Jordan Birch, defensive end, strong defensive end with significant loss on the defensive line. You lose Derek Harmon, the starting defensive tackle. All of these guys are off to the NFL, by the way. Ultimately, they lost their top quarterback, their top running back, their 4 best wide receivers, and 4 starting offensive linemen. That's what Oregon lost on the offensive side of things. On top of this, Oregon also had a lot of transfers out. They had 20 transfers leave this offseason. Oregon is ranked 109th nationally in regards to returning talent, returning production. The Big Ten average is 56% returning production. Oregon is at only 41%. They lost a lot of production from last year's team. All that to say. So, Garrison, are you saying that Oregon is in for a rough season this coming year? I mean, how are they going to rebuild from losing all that talent, losing that elite NFL talent? Oregon reloaded. They're probably going to be fine. So they brought in the second best ranked recruiting class. They brought in the fourth best ranked transfer portal class. And on top of this, in my opinion, their schedule looks pretty easy. They dodge Ohio State and they dodge Michigan. They don't have Illinois on their schedule. They don't have a Nebraska on their schedule. They do have a couple of tough ones. They do have at Penn State, but with the caveat that big noon kickoff has ruined things for the teams in the Big Ten, for teams on any team that plays on Fox. It's ruined because now it's not going to be a night game at Penn State. And there is something different about playing a night game in a whiteout setting in Happy Valley. That is just unbeatable sort of setup right there. But big noon kickoff had to ruin it. So here we are. At least the Ducks don't. It'll still be a tough game, but Oregon doesn't have to play Penn State at night. So there's that. They do have to go at Iowa. That's always a tough place to play. And then they do have to go at Washington. Everybody else is home. USC, maybe they could be tricky. Wisconsin can be tough at times, but I don't really know where they're going as a program. They seem very up and down. Luke Fickell. I keep waiting for more of an explosion from Wisconsin, but they just seem stuck in mediocrity, frankly. The Ducks will be relying on the new starting quarterback in Dante Moore. Now, for those of you who don't know of or don't remember Dante Moore first started his career at UCLA, and he was recruited there by Chip Kelly. He was also considering Oregon. They were kind of the two schools that he was looking at. Ultimately, UCLA won out, and he got to play right away as a freshman. He didn't start that year as the quarterback, but he was thrown into the mix about halfway through the season, and he put up some decent yards. He did also have some big-time breakout games where I think he almost put up 300 against San Diego State, 3 touchdowns. It was a great game. But he also showed weaknesses in that, his youth, his inexperience. He had some growing pains as well. So he gets thrown in halfway through the season, and we see flashes. We see flashes of what he could be. And he had some great games as well. But we also saw that he did have inexperience. He made decisions that were just not what you need out of a starting quarterback. He had some growing pains, let's just say. So fast forward to the end of that year, he transfers, goes to Oregon, to where he basically sat behind Dylan Gabriel all season last year. Talk about a solid player to learn from. And he got the chance to be in Dan Lanning's system, be around the coaching staff, be around the school, get comfortable. And now he is getting ready to take the reins this year coming into 2025. So there's the whispers around campus is that Dante Moore could be a Heisman contender, and he's already in the standings when it comes to the Heisman odds. He's obviously going to be behind the likes of Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier of LSU, and Cade Klubnik of Clemson. He's obviously going to be behind those guys. He's also in the mix with Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, wide receiver. He's not high up on the list, but the fact that he's already getting looks as a Heisman contender, there's whispers about him being good on campus and also across the country. So excited to see what he turns out to be this year. But they also brought in a lot of talent to surround him and help make this campaign a little bit more easy on his end. So I mentioned how they lost 4 offensive linemen from last year's team. They went out and got some guys. Especially a couple that come to mind. Isaiah World, offensive tackle from Nevada, a senior. The World name is kind of synonymous. He's 6'8". The guy is massive, and he has some good game tape on him as well. Then you've got on the interior offensive line, you got Emmanuel Pregnan. He's one of the best ranked interior offensive linemen in the portal, and he's likely going to start at left guard. You got Mekhi Hughes, one of the top running backs in the portal. He's expected to help replace Jordan James. You got Malik Benson at wide receiver from Florida State. He's going to help fill in that talented wide receiving room. So ultimately, Oregon went out and got some guys. Okay. Oregon also, they just got a great coach in Dan Lanning and a great culture. And ultimately, I think they're going to dominate in the trenches like they usually do. So the last 2 years, Oregon has been a Joe Moore Award finalist on the offensive line. In 2023, they were a finalist, and then in 2024, they were a semifinalist. So they know how to dominate the trenches on the offensive line. That is going to help in pass protection for Dante Moore, and that is going to help in the run game, which also takes pressure off of Moore as a quarterback. If you're able to have a balanced attack, just opens things up a lot more for the rest of the team. And then on the defensive side of things, well, actually, before we go to the defensive side of things, the run blocking. The Ducks' offensive line consistently paved the way in recent years for their strong rushing attack. They have a rushing success rate last year. They ranked second in the nation in rushing success rate. But the defensive line, they also dominate the trenches. Last year, they ranked 13th nationally in sacks. They recorded 40 sacks as a team. And in they ranked second in the Big Ten as well. And I expect a lot of that to continue as they're bringing back a lot of experience on the defensive line as well. Oregon, I think, is in for a big season. They brought in some big names into the secondary, some five-star talent. They flipped a guy from Ohio State who's going to probably end up playing a lot of football this year. Oregon's loaded from sideline to sideline. And ultimately, I just really like Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning in his time at Oregon, he's 35-6 into the 2024 season. And ultimately, I just like Dan Lanning. The guy has a .854 win percentage in his time at Oregon, 35-6. They just show up and expect to win. They'll play anybody, anytime, anywhere. He has instilled that culture into Oregon and a lot of Nick Saban's principles from his time at Alabama with Nick Saban as an assistant to where he is now at Oregon. And he has built that program up for success. So I really like the Ducks this year. Fully expect them to have a great season in the Big Ten and be right back in the college football playoff. Ducks will be fun to watch, just like their uniforms.